Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the special Planning Commission meeting of September 23rd, 2019. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Buss?
Present.
Commissioner Cohan?
Here.
Commissioner Lanson?
Here.
Commissioner Newman?
Here.
Chair McMahon?
Here. Item number 4, written comments, announcements, supplemental packets, continuances. Do we have any written comments, announcements, or continuances at this time?
We do not, Chair.
Thank you. Public comments. Okay, I have 2 for 7A and nothing for now. Should I still read the? Now is the time for public comment. At this time, any person may address the commission regarding a city planning matter that is not on this evening's agenda. Should the commission wish to discuss an issue raised by a member of the public, the issue will be referred to staff for scheduling on a future agenda. Anyone who would like to speak under public comments must complete a speaker card and file it with the recording secretary before public comments portion of the agenda is called. The speaker's remarks should be addressed to the commission as a whole and not to an individual commissioner or staff member. Unless otherwise provided by the commission, speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The monitor in front of you will show you the remaining time that you have. And I do not believe we have any speaker cards. Next, we have the consent calendar with the minutes of August 26, 2019. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any comments, or is there a motion to approve? Commissioner Lanson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that we approve the consent calendar.
Will the secretary please prepare us for a vote? Mine is not coming up. Okay. Can I just give you a verbal yes?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. And just as a matter of, did any of my commissioners actually push the motion button? Because that didn't come up either. So we may be having some problems with my computer. I did, yeah. So, okay. Well, we can do this anyways. Will the clerk please open the public hearing?
Okay. Item 7A, hearing having been advertised as required by law, is hereby open to consider agenda item 7A, case numbers Z 2019-70199 and ANX 2019-70198, to pre-zone the following 2 separate parcels to residential plan development, RPD-4.5, prior to annexation to the city of Thousand Oaks. Number 1, the west side of South Ventu Park Road at the terminus of Pepper Road. APN number is 673-0-110-310. And number 2, the east side of Edward Road, approximately 350 feet north of Kathleen Drive. The APN number is 673-0-120-070. And the applicants are Dan Driscoll and Bill Vlachos.
Thank you. Presenting on behalf of staff is Associate Planner Don Nelson.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission, members of the public. The project before you tonight is for pre-zone and annexation of 2 parcels located within the Ventu Park area of the city. Here you can actually see these are the parcels in question. One fronts directly onto the eastern parcel, fronts directly onto Ventura Park Road, and the western parcel fronts onto Edwards Road, which is a private road. The project is before the Planning Commission tonight, since the Planning Commission needs to review all pre-zones and annexations in order to make a recommendation to the City Council. A little bit of background on this particular project. The property owners, they do wish to seek to construct a single-family residence on their respective lots. So in this case, it's two completely separate parcels that were just submitted as one application. So that's why what's coming before you for two different properties. However, since these properties, they are located within the county, they actually have to be annexed into the city in order to receive their water and wastewater services from us, primarily because these properties, they do share a direct border with the city, with the city limits. Now, the annexations, they're finalized by the Ventura County Local Agency Formation Commission. However, the city, we have to go through the review process and approve them, and then also forward a recommendation for the annexation request to the Ventura County LAFCO. A little bit of history on LAFCO, since it's more of like a agency we don't really hear about. It was actually created in 1969 by the state. It's an independent agency that controls the boundaries of cities and other special districts. So think of like a cemetery district, a water district. So they control those boundaries. And it's really in order to help encourage the orderly formation and expansion of cities. So if you want to create a brand new city, you have to go through LAFCO. If the city wants to annex, they have to go through LAFCO. And a lot of this was in order to encourage the preservation of agricultural resources and limit the extent of sprawl. So how is this all coming together for the project tonight? On the ground, the parcels, they do have a general plan land use designation of low density residential, and they are also located within the city's identified planning area and city urban restriction boundaries. Just of note, all the land that's covered by the planning area boundary already has a general plan designation onto it, even if it is not located within the city limits. Additionally, on the existing conditions under the Ventura County's jurisdiction, the two parcels, they actually have a rural agricultural zoning designation, which does allow for a single-family residential as well as some limited agricultural uses for those. So when the city is annexing in those particular properties, we actually have to pre-zone them with the closest compatible zone. Now, even though Thousand Oaks, we do have a rural agricultural zone, which is almost on par with the county jurisdiction, the parcels themselves, they actually do not meet the minimum lot size requirements for the city's rural agricultural zone, which is set at a minimum of 1 acre. So with that in mind, and not wanting to create a legal non-conforming lot regarding the zoning designation, staff then took a look at the other zoning designations within that the city has. The next closest available one that would fit the intended purposes for these lots would actually be the city's residential plan development, or the RPD zone district. That zoning is still compatible with the county's rural agricultural zone, because it still allows for these single-family developments within the existing area. Also, the subject parcels, they do meet the minimum lot size requirements that's set by the RPD zone, which is 5,500 square feet. Also, both of these parcels, they are located directly adjacent to existing RPD neighborhoods that are within the city. So we're not actually doing any type of a spot zone by going through and doing the RPD designation. Now that we've staff kind of established the base zone, we actually then have to look at what type of subzone would be accurate for these parcels. They are subzones. They are required in order to establish the density that could be allowed within these particular areas. Right now, the proposed subzone is 4.5 units per acre, or 4.5 U, and this is so that it actually complies with the general plan land use designation. The low density residential allows for 2 to 4.5 units per acre. Of note, for both of these lots, they're actually of a size that even if we apply the 4.5 units per acre, it will only allow for one single family residence on there. So we're not going to get an apartment building or anything else. It's just going to be a regular single family home. That would be the maximum amount allowed on both of these parcels. Now that we kind of set the groundwork for it, we then took a look at the guidelines, Ventura County LAFCO's guidelines for orderly development. And this document was actually adopted by the county and all of the cities within the county in order to help clarify the planning and the development relationship between all of the cities and the county. And it's really intended to allow for development to be concentrated in within existing incorporated cities of the county. And those cities, they also have to provide this full range of the municipal services, and they also have to be in charge of their own land use planning. So looking at the project-specific sites, they are both located within a county peninsula that is primarily developed with existing single-family residences, and they are directly adjacent to areas within the city that are primarily developed with existing single-family residences. Additionally, Thousand Oaks is primarily a full-service city as well. So based on all of these other facts, the annexation and the pre-zone, they actually meet the intent of the LAFCO guidelines. The project tonight, it is exempt from the provisions of CEQA under Section 15319 because it's for the annexation of two small parcels, and their intended future use can also be is also exempt from the provisions of CEQA. In this particular case, a single-family home is exempt from CEQA used under Section 15303. And so that's all contained, all of those requirements are contained under this section of CEQA. So then staff made the determination that the pre-zoning and the annexations, they are, one, consistent with the general plan, two, they're compliant with the applicable laws, regulations, and policies of the city and the state. It would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and general welfare, and the project is exempt from the provisions of CEQA. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the resolution making a recommendation to the City Council that will find that the project, the pre-zoning and annexation are exempt from CEQA, to adopt the ordinance in order to establish the RPD zone, and then also to adopt the resolution of application in order to A, annex the properties, and then also to B, detach from the county service districts. If the Planning Commission does approve the project, approve the recommendation tonight, the next steps would be for the City Council review and approval, a Ventura County LAFCO review and approval, as well as a precise plan of design application to the Planning Department and Building and Safety Plan check. Thank you.
So just to clarify, that means we are recommending to the City Council.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Commissioner Newman?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Nielsen. I appreciate your explaining the differences between the county RA zoning designation and the city's RPD and how they're compatible, essentially, in this case. The public notices that went out and the notices to the commissioners up until last week all said that this case was going to be about RA zoning. I just want to be sure on transparency and truth in advertising grounds that we're okay with that change, that we previously told everyone that this was a case about RA zoning, when in fact we're voting tonight on RPD zoning.
Yes. So the way that the noticing was reading, it did say a rezone or pre-zone to RA, but there's a second part of that. It's or other compatible zoning. So because at the time when the noticing was going out, staff was unsure of the specific type of zone that would be going there. So it by including the other compatible zoning in there, it gave us some breathing room to make that determination during formal analysis.
And as you've explained, it is RPD and RA are entirely compatible in this case, right? Okay. So my other question is about pros and cons. There's a benefit for the applicants in this case is that they're able to buy water and sewer services from the city by having these parcels incorporated. What about from the city standpoint? Are there pros and cons to annexing land that was formerly county land?
There are some pros and cons to both the annexation and the deciding not to annex. Definitely one of the pros is that we would get some property taxes from the new, from any new development that does go into these onto these respective lots. Additionally, we do have expenditures of other city services out to those particular areas. So that could factor in. But overall, this is, since it's already a highly developed county peninsula, ultimately, this area could foreseeably be seen, or the entire area could foreseeably be seen annexing into the city as time progresses on. In this particular case, they're two very small single-family lots, and really just because they are directly adjacent, we have to go through this annexation process in order to allow the property owners to develop their property.
Right, and to be clear, the only thing before us tonight is the annexation of these two parcels. We're not talking about a policy change of annexing anything beyond that, correct?
Correct, yeah. So what's only before the commission tonight is the annexation of these two particular parcels and then that respective pre-zone.
Very good. Thank you. Nothing further?
Thank you. Are there any other, Commissioner Buss?
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen, for your report. Just again, another clarification of what is and isn't in front of us. The annexation is the only thing we're talking about. We're not looking as to whether or not they can build a house, what kind of house, if it's applicable, anything that actually has to do with whether or not they can actually end up building something on the land, right?
Correct. So the limit of the commission's actions tonight are strictly based on the pre-zone and the annexation. If City Council approves the annexation and if LAFCO approves the annexation as well, ultimately approves the annexation, the applicant would then have to submit a precise plan of design to the planning department. And it's at that time we would consider the actual on-the-ground physical development. And it's in the review of that application that we would make the determination of, can we process it administratively or going through at staff level, or if it's triggering something that would require it to come to Planning Commission.
So city hasn't seen any potential plans of what they might consider putting on the land at all?
Correct. They've only indicated that they wish to build a single-family residence on their respective lots.
All right, great. Nothing further.
Commissioner Buss, did you have something?
All right, I got a couple of questions now. One, why is the application a joint application? Are they two separate owners? Is that for convenience?
They are two separate owners. They were submitting the annexation applications almost exactly the same time. So in terms of just convenience of processing for them and also for the city staff,
So it's just a happy coincidence?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then of note to me, so we're talking about this whole area is a county peninsula still at this point, but they get their water and sewer from the city, correct?
That's correct.
And we're talking about annexing these two properties. Are we talking about a greater conversation about the entire neighborhood too?
No. So the annexation is only strictly for these two particular parcels. And there's not a conversation regarding the greater portion of the neighborhood.
Okay, so these two particular parcels will be part of the city, and the rest of it will still be county land around them?
Yes, and if you'll humor me, I'm going to try and go to a map. So here we have, it's a little map right here. In the black dotted line, that's actually the city boundary. And so this parcel in red on the left, and there's a little parcel in red on the right. Those are the identified parcels. But as you kind of look at the city, the black dotted line, we've already annexed other properties that were part of the original Ventura Park development.
Yeah, I remember that these parcels were originally sold in the back of magazines in the 20s back east.
Yes.
Later to be developed. I'm familiar with the history of that neighborhood, but I'm just kind of fascinated that we're literally annexing two parcels out of an entire neighborhood, and that's what we're discussing. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, and then now we ask for the applicant or the applicant's representative to speak. You'll have 15 minutes. Bill Vlachos or Dan Driscoll?
So if I may, Chair, I actually don't know where my applicants are tonight. I actually spoke with them at the counter today, and they said they indicated they were going to be here. I don't know where they're at, though.
And this can proceed without them? Yes? Okay, then let's proceed. And we do have let's see, this has kind of thrown me for a loop here. We can't ask them any questions. All right. We do have 2 public comment cards. We have 2 speaker cards. So you'll each have 5 minutes. And please state the name of your name and your city of residence as I call you up. And the first one is Steve Ogleski. Is Steve Ogleski here? You can come to the podium and say your name and city of residence, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Steve Oglesby. I have a couple of questions. I'm not sure who to address the questions to, but I'm wondering if the property that's currently annexed to the county, if there is water and sewage available from there.
What happens in this procedure is you ask all your questions and you make all your comments, and then at the end of all the speakers' questions and comments, then staff will address them all at one point.
So you'll address all the questions at once, is that what you're saying?
And they're taking notes, so you'll get it answered.
Okay. The second question I have is it's talking that the annexation is going to provide an exemption to the California Environmental Quality Act. I don't know what that means to me, okay? Just so you know, my property is right behind the one on Edward that you're applying for. And so my ultimate question is, how will I be affected? And I know that you're only talking about annexation tonight, but from this point, it goes to the Planning Commission to present a building plan, to put up a building. And the first part of that is attaching to all the utilities, sewer, water, power, blah, blah, blah. I need to know if I'm going to be affected by that in any way. The person that was interested, and I don't know his name, I forget his name, approached me several months ago. He knocked on my door and was telling us that he was buying this property behind us and that he needed to dig up our property to attach to the sewer. I got a problem with that. So when you get to answering these questions, I'd really appreciate that.
Thank you. And then we have Beverly Van Velser. And just at the podium, state your name and city of residence also.
Hi, I'm Beverly Van Velzer. My house is directly behind the lot on Edward. We share a chain link fence. We have a very quiet, fabulous neighborhood. And there's hardly any noise. It's like paradise, and we've kept it that way. And not that I'm saying anyone's going to come in and make a lot of noise or whatever, but just the building thought makes my skin crawl. I know if someone owns a lot, they have a right, and they said one residence. I'm here to hear everything you have to say, but right now our neighborhood is pretty wonderful the way it is. I just wanted to say that.
I'm really glad to hear that.
What?
I'm really glad to hear that.
That's
Awesome. Okay, and there are no more speaker cards, so we'll go back to staff, and perhaps they can answer the questions and make some comments.
Just a second, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. So to answer the first question about existing water and sewer, that particular area, there are some service agreements that the county has with the city in order to provide some water and sewer. These particular lots, since they are directly adjacent, they do have to hook up directly into the city, and that's why we're going through the annexation proceedings. In terms of CEQA and the impacts for the actual property owner, so the California Environmental Quality Act, its main purpose is to look at any potential significant environmental impacts that a project will have on the environment. And in cases like this, so just going through this portion of the project, this project would actually be exempt from that Quality Act because we're not doing any sticks on the ground. It's not constructing anything, and it's just going through the annexation proceedings. So there's certain areas of this environmental review that doesn't apply to this particular project. What'll happen though is, in terms of the primary impacts, will actually to you as an adjacent property owner, will most likely be going through. It's like the construction phase of any single-family home if everything else is approved farther down the line. I just want to let you know is that so when we go through the entire precise plan of design process, it triggers what's known as a notice of application. So that's another public hearing notice that we actually send out to all the residents within a 400-foot radius of the property. So you would actually be noticed again once we actually have a proposed development on the site. And then it's really at that time that we can then better address any concerns that you have regarding physical development of the site. And that includes where the sewer and water connections are actually going to go and all of that pathway. So that's hopefully that can actually answer your question at that time. If not, I can actually I can meet up with you after the hearing so we can further discuss this. In terms of the last one, it is primarily for the last comment. It's for single-family residents, and in terms of having it's like a quiet neighborhood and everything else, it's great that we have that. The city, we do have ordinances that are in place, particularly it's like the noise ordinance in order to kind of control any nuisances that we have. There will be during construction we will have some noise, but beyond that, there are other city ordinances that can be utilized in order to try and maintain that atmosphere, the existing atmosphere out there. So, thank you.
Thank you. And maybe just to piggyback on that, there are always restrictions on construction as to a time frame during the day, how early the construction can start, how late it can go, and weekends and stuff like that. So the city does place constraints on the building itself, the building process itself. Are there any other, Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Oglesby and Ms. Van Velzer, I want to thank you both for coming to speak tonight. And I want to follow up on one of the questions Mr. Oglesby asked. Mr. Nielsen, you said there are existing agreements with the county for water and sewer services, but in this case, it would be better to have the city provide those because they're adjacent to these parcels. Did I understand correctly?
Good evening, Commissioner Newman. I'll try to answer that. There are two different ways you can get, if you're on an island or in a peninsula that's in the county surrounded by city lands.
Yes.
One of those is to obtain an out of area service agreement with the adjacent city, and the second way is to annex. And in this case, because they're adjacent, LAFCO sent them to the city to confer with us and Public Works on that, and it was determined that we should go forward with the annexation request.
Would the hookups to the city to city services, because they're adjacent to these parcels, would they therefore be less disruptive than trying to hook into the existing county, or is it the same service and it's just a question of under whose pretext, under whose auspices we do it?
The out-of-area service agreements are for the city to provide services to them in county land. So it's city service.
It's the same set of pipes either way?
Yes, it's city service either way.
Okay, so there's no greater impact from doing it this way, or lesser, I suppose.
It's the same service.
Right, all right.
Provider. Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Buss?
I've got a question. So if they are annexed, will that change how first responders operate in that neighborhood? Do they get a different level of service because they are part of the city? Response times, which part of the county sheriff's, the one that's contracted as TO, or the county responds to their calls?
No, it would not change any emergency response for this particular neighborhood. The city, we do contract with the county to provide for fire and police as well. And so the response time would still be the same.
Even though that's considered county instead of our city?
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? I'm sorry, I can't call you up again. But I'm sorry. I am closing the public hearing right now, and I will open up the floor for a motion or discussion. Commissioner.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank both speakers for coming tonight. Thank the applicant as well. Thank staff for their presentation. I understand there are some concerns about what might happen. Change is always unsettling and not always good. That said, what we're discussing tonight is really a change on a heading on a piece of paper, and that's all. We're not doing anything to the environment tonight. We're not making any sewer hookups tonight or water hookups or anything like that. We're just debating whether to recommend. We're not even deciding that. We're recommending something that someone else will decide, whether the status of something should go from county status to city status. And as staff has told us, either way, it's all going through the same pipes anyway. So this is really just a question of legal status before us tonight, and that's all. So with that, I am going to go ahead and recommend that we recommend cases Z 2019-70199 and ANX 2019-70198 for approval by the City Council based on the findings and conditions. Thank you.
Did you push the button?
I have now.
Okay, it's still not coming up on my screen. So do we want to do some on the computer, and I'll just do okay, I will vote yes. And then everybody else can do it the technological way.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Did I do the fill thing? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. No. I'm sorry. We need to proceed with this hearing at this time. The city staff will be happy to talk to you after the meeting or tomorrow during business hours. If you don't mind waiting around, I'm sure they'll be happy to discuss everything with you. But at this time, we need to open the next hearing. Will the clerk please open the public hearing for 7B?
Item 7B, hearing having been advertised as required by law, is hereby open to consider agenda item 7B, case number SUP 2019-70606, to allow storage and ancillary maintenance of a private vehicle and arcade game collection in an existing industrial building located at 1171 Tourmaline Drive, and the applicant is Miller Tourmaline LLC.
Thank you. And presenting on behalf of staff is Associate Planner Will Chua.
Good evening, Chair McMahon, members of the Commission. As previously mentioned, for your consideration tonight is an application to allow storage and maintenance of a private vehicle and arcade game collections in an existing industrial building. The project site is located within the Rancho Conejo Industrial Park specific plan, also known as Specific Plan 15. The main streets within the area include Hillcrest Drive to the south and Lawrence Drive to the east. This is an aerial view of the project site. It's surrounded by other industrial use, and approximately about 300-400 feet to the west is a residential area. This photo shows the south side of the industrial building with the parking areas to the right of the picture. This is the rear portion of the building, showing the fencing around the rear side of the property. This is the location, the front entry to the property on the north side of the building. This is the planner area that is discussed in the staff report that needs refurbishing or rehabilitation, as well as the ones in the parking area. The Specific Plan 15 requires Planning Commission approval for the special use permit for auto repair and reconditioning services or activity. As a matter of background for the property, in 1978, DP 213 was approved for the construction of a 21,000 square feet industrial building with 27 parking spaces. In 1991, City Council approved the annexation of this area, which is now the Rancho Conejo Industrial Park. In 1998, a special use permit was approved to allow a home furnishing store on the property. Subsequent permits were obtained to allow the installation of a mezzanine that's about 6,900 square feet. And in June of this year, the applicant filed the subject application. The applicant intends to utilize the industrial building to store and perform maintenance on his private vehicle and arcade game collection. To break down the floor plan, on the first floor there will be a show car carousel, car storage system, offices, restroom, and an electrical room. In the mezzanine there will be some, it will be used for arcade games, antique items, as well as provide office area and a restroom. This is the site plan of the property. Nothing's going to change as far as the site plan except for accessibilities, access. This plan shows 25 parking spaces. And this is the first floor plan. I'm sorry. This is the first floor plan. Carousel for the car, show car would be here. This is a car storage system, restroom, bathroom, and offices. And this is the mezzanine area right here, which will store arcade games. Office will have an office as well. Special use permits are permits that evaluates the activities and uses that may or may not be appropriate for the vicinity or the location. The project conditions are imposed on that special use permit that are site specific. In evaluating a special use permit, the Planning Commission must find that the proposed project is compatible with the land uses in the vicinity and will not be injurious or detrimental to public health or welfare to surrounding properties. The project site is zoned M1, located within specific Plan 15. The project is located within an industrial park. There are other uses. The other uses within the vicinity of the project are manufacturing, automotive repair, commercial and industrial contractors, and commercial recreational facilities, to name a few. No commercial activity is being proposed at the subject site. This project is categorically exempt under Section 15301, use of existing facilities. The proposed activity is consistent with the general plan, specific Plan 15, and the municipal code. It will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or general welfare. It's categorically exempt under CEQA and compatible with surrounding land uses. As a matter of a clarification, condition number 5, as I mentioned earlier, we require the applicant to restore the existing or the landscaping that needs refurbishing. So I will read a proposed condition, and I would suggest that the applicant listen as well. And I quote, landscape repair / restoration. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall submit a landscape and irrigation plan for review and approval by the Community Development Department. The plan shall include details to be implemented by the applicant that repair, restore, and renovate the existing landscape and irrigation system. The landscape materials to be planted shall consist of native drought-tolerant materials. The plan shall be consistent or exceed city land. The plan shall be consistent with or exceed city landscape and irrigation standards. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving SUP 2019-70606 based on the findings and subject to the conditions included in the attached resolution to the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chua. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Newman?
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chua, for your report. Regarding the staff report stated that there's, and you just reiterated, there's no commercial activity here, there's no public access. That's stated in the staff report. I didn't see a condition that mandates that. Is one necessary, stating that this facility is closed to the public?
No, it's not necessary because this is a private collection by the applicant, and it's up to the commissioner if they find it necessary to condition it that way.
And in a similar vein, I also did not, I see public works conditions, but no public safety conditions. I presume the applicant's collection is somewhat to maybe very valuable. I understand it's incumbent on the applicant to protect what's stored in the building, but are there any public safety concerns about having this valuable collection at this facility?
It's a matter of self-security for the applicant, so they're responsible for securing the property. As far as the police department did not provide a comment on this, since this is a personal collection, not a commercial use. So
is it staff's view then that there's no significant public safety hazard posed by this application?
That's correct.
Great. Then the final thing I had is when I did my site inspection, there was a roofing crew putting tar or something up on the roof. I presume that's out of scope. That's not part of the permit.
No, it's
construction work. Very good. Thank you.
Commissioner Buss?
So I got a couple questions. One, there's a body shop exemption for this permit, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So what does that mean exactly?
Body shop. Body shop is for repair of automotive body. For
Okay, so I worked in automotive service for 20 years. I'm friends with Jay Leno. I'm familiar with his setup, and are we saying that he's not allowed to have a paint booth in there to paint cars? Because we are saying that he's allowed to do restorations. So in some cases, when you're pulling an engine transmission out of a car, you're taking the whole front end of it off. You're pulling the front clip out. If he wants to do stuff like that, disassemble vehicles. Where's the line between restoration and body work is what I'm curious about.
well, body works requires approval by APCD, and this is not being reviewed by the APCD, and the applicant, when the application was filed, was asked if they would have body work, and they did not say so. So they indicated
Okay,
that
so maybe
there
that's a
won't be
question I'll
body-
ask the
yes.
applicant then. Okay, and then the other question I had is, since we're saying this is a private collection, if he, as all collectors do, gets bored of a car and wants to sell it, is he allowed to do that off of his private property from his collection at that location, or does he have to move those vehicles off-site to sell them somewhere else?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, he can do sales as long as he can do private sale as long as it's not a commercial activity.
Okay, and if he sells a certain number a year, then he has to get a commercial license anyway, and then he'd come back to us for a permit on that, or would he just, or when we approve this now, are we never the twain shall meet again? We won't know whether or not he's doing that.
We will not know whether he's doing that unless there's a complaint on the property.
Okay, copy that. All right, thank you.
If I could just augment Mr. Chua's comment, if any retail sale occurs at the property, they would have to come back to this commission to consider an application or request for retail sales. Right now, they are not allowed to have any retail activities.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any more questions? Okay, at this point, we will ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to speak. You have 15 minutes, and so please come to the podium and state your name and city of residence for the record.
This podium? Yes. Hi, I'm Mark Malaby, and I'm the architect of this project. The owner has his cars in many locations around right now, and he'd like to consolidate it into this one place. He's not a hobbyist restorer of cars, he's a collector. So it's intended here that if he was going to take a car out that hadn't been used for a while, he would check the levels, maybe tune the carburetors, check the air pressure, but we're not expecting heavy repairs. He would send that out to somebody else. He also has a collection of arcade games, numerous architectural antiques, antique smalls, you know, anything that's of his fancy. He's trying to get all of his toys in one place. That's basically what we're doing. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Lanson?
I'm Mr. Malaby. Just a few
Hi.
questions. So just to confirm, all of the cars that would be in the facility are all owned by the one person?
Yes.
So he's not going to be holding cars that belong to other people and mix and matching, so to speak?
Not the intention. I think he's very private, actually. I don't think he wants other people to know what's there. He was actually disturbed by the public sign that said his collections were going to be there. So I don't expect that that's going to be an issue.
But at this point, do you want to reserve the ability to have somebody else's cars in the facility aside from the collector?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
It sounds like, again, just from your answer, there may be other cars owned by other people at some point that would be in the collection along with the collector.
Do you think so? I don't think so. No.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're clear as to exactly the cars that are going to be at the location.
Yeah.
Second of all, do you envision a security system and cameras and things being
Of
put
course.
outside?
Of course.
How many cameras are you putting outside the building?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. To respond, you need to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
at the microphone.
Please excuse me. All right, thank you. This is Brian DePayne. He's the project manager, an on-site manager. Probably about 30 cameras, maybe 6 outside.
Any outdoor lighting and things like that to actually for motion sensors and things like that?
Yes.
Any other type of security measures that be taken aside from on the outside, aside from cameras?
Well, we haven't brought on board a security consultant yet, but we will, and we don't mind stipulating to that.
Okay. No further questions.
All right. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. I don't think we have any public comments. If you have nothing more to say, you can sit down. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, we have one more.
I'm going to ask you the question I was asking them.
Yeah.
Will the intent be at any point for him to do any transactions on that facility?
I think he acquires. I don't think he sells.
Okay, so he's never sold anything to your knowledge?
Has he? I think no, actually.
All right, works for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. At this point, I think you can sit down. If you have nothing more to say, you have more time.
Okay, well, no, thank you, Chair. It's not that complicated.
No, it's not. Thank you. All right. Commissioners, let's see. I'm closing the public hearing. And do we have any more questions for staff? No? Oh, Commissioner Buss?
So on the planter thing, is that already put into what we're going to approve now, or is that something they have to agree to?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
The recommendation that you read off to us, is that already included in what we're going to be recommending, or is that something we need to add in and they need to agree to?
I would like the commission to make a recommendation to include the revised condition number 5 as part of the approval.
And if I may, great question. There is actually in condition 5 that was in the packet, there is a landscape restoration repair condition. It's this condition that he read was actually just interchanged with that one. We're taking that one out and put this one in. And all it does for the applicant and for you as commissioners is just add a little bit more detail about submitting the plan for the landscape. I would actually thank you for making that comment. Just if you can have him come up just so we're clear and we can read it again for the record.
Okay, thank you. If you would please come back up. I'm glad I have help up
and
here.
I can do this, Chair, if you want.
Okay.
So, sir, you heard Mr. Chua earlier read a condition. As you probably know from the previous packet, there was a condition number 5. We just talked about the landscape plan. And all we did as staff was we just added a little bit more material into that condition. And that material was to that you have to submit the plan to the Community Development Department. And that plan, again, is to restore, repair, renovate the existing landscaping and irrigation system. And when you do that plan, when you submit it, it has to comply with or exceed the city landscape and irrigation standards. Mm-hmm. So it's very consistent with both the staff report and the condition that was already there. We just kind of included some of the staff report material into the condition.
That's fine. That's completely acceptable to the applicant.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Buss, for reminding us of that. I appreciate that. Okay, so I will now open the floor up for a motion and or discussion. Anyone? Go ahead, please, Commissioner Newman.
I guess tonight is David resolution night. I have no objections at all to this project. And I like to see nice cars, but I also want to respect the privacy of this applicant. So with that, I will move that we approve SUP 2019-70606 based on the findings and conditions, including the modified condition 5.
Any other comments? Okay, will you prepare the rest of us for a vote, and I'll just tell you yes. I feel so left out here.
Motion carries 5-0.
Any aggrieved party who wishes to appeal the Planning Commission's decision may do so by filing an appeal with the Community Development Department within 10 days. I don't see that happening. All right, thank you for your time. All right, item number 8, department reports.
We have none this evening.
Okay, item number 9, commission comments and AB 1234 reports. Are there any comments from my fellow commissioners? Commissioner?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a quick housekeeping note. I will be out of town for the scheduled November 4th meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Commissioner Lanson?
I will be as well.
All right.
November 4th.
Okay. All right. Thank you for letting us know. Anything else? Any other comments? All right. Mr. Parker, are there any follow-up items, announcements, or upcoming issues?
No follow-up and upcoming issues. Excuse me, Chair. No follow-up and upcoming issues. I would like to mention that currently there are no items scheduled on the Planning Commission agenda. However, that could change. I just want to put that out there. So please keep those dates reserved and clear. And along those lines, City Council has set their meeting schedule for the 2020 year, and consistent with city requirements and policies, the Planning Commission schedule will continue to be the Monday preceding City Council meetings for the 2020 year, and included in your packet is dates to hold for 2020 so we can continue with our Planning Commission meeting schedule.
Thank you. Anything else at this time? All right. The meeting is now adjourned to the next meeting, October 8th, 2019 at 6 p.m. Thank you, everybody.